everybody. And Dan, thanks for bailing me out with the traffic and switching. And I wanted to start by saying that we are truly blessed and fortunate to live in one of the most exciting periods, I think, in human history. So much is happening so fast, and there is so much disruptive, powerful innovation all around us, and that creates abundance of opportunity. And with that, I personally believe, an awesome responsibility, because we are very privileged to live in this period, and we have an awesome responsibility to use all this abundance of inventiveness and technology in responsible, meaningful, and entrepreneurial ways that at the end of the day are not just about wealth and bottom line, but equally they're about making good and making a difference and creating all these opportunities for sustainability and scalability in every part that we touch. So in terms of 3D systems, everything that we do is disruptive, everything that we do is transformative, everything that we do is impactful. And the interesting part is that there is really nothing new about what we do. Does anybody recognize what this is? Sorry? Liver? Any other ideas? Okay. How about it's a sculpture? Do you want to guess what the age is?
Something BC.
Take a number.
300.
300.
BC.
4,000. How old do you think, in absolute number, how old do you think? This is a wood carving sculpture. How old do you think it is? 15,000. How about 35,000 years? It was discovered in Germany a few years ago. The first known 3D carved article. The point simply is that we, as human beings, have been communicating in 3D since the beginning of time. The only thing that has changed is the tools in which we express ourselves in 3D. In the old days, it was carving knives and chisels, and in more modern times, it was other subtractive technologies like CNC machining and wire EDM. And we're merely doing it in additive fashion, one layer at a time. But the bottom line is, it is a 3D world after all, and everything around us is expressed in 3D. The difference between additive and all of the traditional ways is that with additive manufacturing and 3D printing, complexity is free of charge, because you can do anything. Any geometry that you can conceive of, you can make. So you've seen some 3D belts before. I'm going to pass this with a caveat that these are not gifts. When I was here in November, I passed a few items, and then we had to send the search party. So this one is Dan's belt. When we get done, Dan gets it. But I want you to see, this is the very material. This is nylon 12. This is the very material that is on board every F-18 that is in service. And I'll come back to that. But complexity and flexibility with additive manufacturing is free of charge. And so if you can think it, if you can dream it, if it's meaningful to you, you can make it functional, and you can go from virtual to actual very, very quickly. So a little bit about 3D systems. Chuck Hall invented 3D printing some 30 years ago. This coming March 9th, 2013, will be the 30th anniversary that Chuck Hall, at the age of 47, discovered additive layer manufacturing in his lab at the age of 47. He reinvented himself, and he went on to pioneer and create a whole industry. And some 25 years before anybody could utter the word open source, Chuck Hall gifted to the universe the STL file format that is the universally accepted translator between all CAD systems and 3D printers, which is used to this day. So he was a true pioneer, and he not only launched 3D systems, but he gave birth to the whole industry as we know it today. We are a global company. We're traded on the New York Stock Exchange. We have a market cap of about $2.5 billion, which is about 12 or 13 times higher than it was when I joined 3D. So we have built the company quite substantially. And it's all about leadership through technology, and it's all about disrupting and innovating in ways that make a difference to our customers and do a lot of good in terms of the designs. For about 20 years, we concentrated on solving lots of design and manufacturing problems. And in the process, we went through all the early manifestations of a company as we crossed the chasm, and that included dealing with all the deep-pocketed companies of the day, automotive, aerospace, defense. Keep in mind that when 3D systems started, the average cost for a good CAD seat was well over $120,000 all in by the time that you got the computing and processing power and you got the software. And it required nearly astronauts like Dan to be able to actually do something in solid modeling back in the day. It was very complex. And it was really an exclusive club of expert users that knew how to do it. In the last 25 years, there has been a great deal of democratization. And today, 3D printing is used virtually in every aspect of design to manufacturing by companies large and small the world over. So starting with automotive. In automotive, 3D printing today is used extensively all the way from prototyping through functional testing, all the way to pre-production. There are hundreds of vehicles that get manufactured with functional 3D printed parts under the hood and in a variety of other functional subsystems within the vehicle. And increasingly, 3D printing is transitioned into some high-end automobiles. So if every Rolls-Royce that comes off the production line has 3D printed parts, some BMW products have 3D printed parts, some Jaguars have 3D printed parts. And when you look at a trend, do you guys know how many customization options exist for the Mini Cooper? If you wanted to go and configure your own Mini, anybody? How many options do you have? Huh? Millions? It's about 10,000 options that you can select from when you go and configure your Mini Cooper. Increasingly, to be able to do that, you need the freedom to mass customize and make one of a kind. That's where 3D printing fits into the equation. So, aerospace, every F-18 that is in service today has some 90 printed parts on it that are made exactly from the same material that this cell phone cover is printed out of. It's a nylon 12. It's been qualified for flight, and for the last decade plus, every F-18 that is in flight today has lots of air ducts and manifolds that are printed in active service. On the F-35, some 900 parts have been qualified for 3D printing. And we have just been awarded a few weeks ago an Air Force contract to basically transition the technology into what they call manufacturing readiness. Why? Because they're looking for part count reduction. They're looking for the ability to combine very complex geometries and assemblies into single pieces, and they're looking to do it in ways that would lighten the weight, which has direct impact on fuel efficiency and maneuverability, which is at the sweet spot of one of our technologies, which is selective laser sintering. High impact, low weight, extremely durable, fits perfectly within the requirements of aerospace and defense because it improves fuel efficiency and maneuverability. One of my favorite and our fastest growing vertical within 3D systems is the whole area of personalized medical device, starting with in-the-ear hearing aids. All of the in-the-ear hearing aids today, the final end-use shells that go in the ear canal are printed. They're printed from biocompatible materials, and they're stuffed with the electronics, and the file is permanently in a database of the hearing aid company, so if you step on it, if you lose it, you can order it again without a second fitting. And it's an area where we have figured out how to go all the way from capture, from scanning, into an automated workflow, and there are some over 200 manufacturing facilities around the world that print hearing aids day in and day out. Dental restorations, increasingly, are done using 3D printing, and again, going from scan to print. And I'll pass to you how the dental study model gets printed in this articulated device. And that's how dental labs today go from scanning your dental work to printing a dental study model and then printing the copings that go into crown, bridge, partial denture, and implants. If you look at companies like Invisalign that does the clear retainers, Invisalign prints using our technology some 65,000 impressions daily to support their manufacturing. And what's unique about this is not only have they figured out how to scale it in an industrial sense, but that each and every one of the 65,000 impressions that they build daily is unique, right? That's what we call mass customization. And we now have a new technology that we acquired recently from a startup here in the Bay Area that in the second half of next year will allow us to significantly disrupt the way that wrist and hand braces are delivered. So what I have here is what's going to be the alternative to carpal tunnel syndrome braces. So what does today's traditional solution look like? Bulky, ugly, heavy, could be smelly, right? After a while, you certainly could not do this. You couldn't reach into your pocket and take something out. And so we have now in clinic scanning that takes advantage of actually Kinect technology, very affordable, proprietary, that will allow you to go into a clinic, get your arm scanned by a treating clinician, and it will be uploaded, and what you'll get back is a beautiful, thin, almost stealthy-like, highly functional. You could have all of your normal functions, as you can see in the picture, and when you're done with it at the end of the day, you can stick it in the dishwasher, and it's dishwashable, it's breathable, it's functional, and it could be arguably a fashion statement. You can begin to accessorize yourself and celebrate the fact that you have this condition instead of be embarrassed by it. Another example of how this technology could change everything, and of course, unlike the poorly fitted traditional braces, this is going to be bespoke. It's going to be made uniquely for you, to fit you and nobody else perfectly. This all started with mechanical CAD design and architecture, where the technology today is used extensively in all walks of design and supported by every CAD company out there. And increasingly, our technology is also used by footwear companies and by athletic wear companies, not only to design and communicate in full color, because we're also the only company that actually has the ability to print in full color, and you'll see the Z Printer 650 in our lab here. It's a printer that can print with up to 380 color combinations. And what's impressive about that is that for many of these athletic and footwear companies, they can actually not only communicate the design, but they can go and pre-sell the design and determine before they spend a nickel on their tooling and manufacturing infrastructure, they can already take orders from their entire distribution by actually going to buyers of department stores and going to all of their retail outlets and presenting the end product before a single product is manufactured. Think about the implications on supply chain. And one of the areas that is really near and dear to my heart is the ability to capture the attention and awaken the creative parts of kids at a very, very early age before our educational system snuffs creativity out of children, and to get children to believe that this is the new canvas, this is the new tool to storytell, to do their book dioramas, to begin to conceive of how a mathematical equation might look physically, to look at how chemistry, molecules might look like, to begin to create their arts and their crafts, and of course to study robotics and engineering and STEM skills. But beyond that, to begin to look at it at very early ages in the same way that they look today at a tablet or a computer, as a tool that can help kids get in touch with their creativity and to express it in ways that they can't do today. Why? Because increasingly, we're living more and more in a virtual world. And we're losing some of our craftsmanship and making skills. And there is a unique opportunity here with 3D printing at a very young age to allow kids to make the connection between the virtual and the actual. And that's a very powerful connection that I think could give kids desperately needed competitive skills to be competitive tomorrow in a different economy and get those skills today. We're also very active in heritage preservations. When you look at the state of our heritage preservation worldwide, foot traffic in museums is very low, and only about 2% of all of the collections that we have in museums is on display. Most of the collection is warehoused. That presents a real challenge for museums because they want to give access to academia, they want to give access to research, but they don't want anything to be touched and potentially damaged. It denies the public from the opportunity to view the collections, and so there is a tremendous opportunity here to digitize, to scan complete collections, and then to present them for viewing, for replication, and even for monetization on the part of museums worldwide. And that is why we partnered with the Smithsonian, and we're on a 3-year journey to figure out how to scale heritage preservation in a way that would permanently preserve it for viewing, for study, for research, and for replication in an authorized and a responsible way. What's also important to me is the sustainability part of 3D printing. Remember, the 3D printing allows you to make anything that you want in a quantity of one or in quantity of thousands, which means you only make what you need. It comes with almost zero waste. So the concept of total material usage is very, very powerful here. You can manufacture it as close to the point of use, so you can substantially reduce carbon footprint as it pertains to freight costs, because it really enables you to begin to look at the relocalization of manufacturing, because what you have is you have digital inventory of files, and you have a factory in a box that is not dependent on tooling and setups and changeovers and lead times. You have a completely flexible factory, and you have digital inventory, and that is very powerful, both in terms of the ability to increasingly personalize and individualize products, but also the impact that it has on sustainability and relocalization. It's very powerful. And with that, of course, a growing community of users. And the important recognition that not all 3D printers are created equal, and it's very, very important to select the right tool for the right job. So when you go to the lab here, you'll see that we have the Cube 3D printer, which is our very first consumer at-home printer that has very nice functionality for kids and for hobbyists, but not for automotive companies, not for aerospace, not for medical device. And it's very affordable, and it retails at $1,300. But we have some printers that can print an entire Toyota Camry dashboard in a single piece. And so there are clearly horses for courses here. And with that, over 100 materials that really create the opportunity for people to make in metal, in plastic, in wax, in rubber-like materials, in composites, for a variety of applications. So what's the big deal? The big deal is that when you put all this technology together, it begins to create the possibility of harnessing it and using it in ways that have not been conceived of before. And to me, that's the exciting part. The exciting part is that the eureka, the discovery here is at the interface between science and music, physics and chemistry, music and mathematics. That's where we're going to have some of the discoveries of the future. And we are beginning to just grasp the possibilities of what happens when you look at a mathematical equation and you bring it to life in a physical form. What does that mean? What happens when you take a musical instrument and you don't have any constraints whatsoever because complexity is free with 3D printing? What kind of new sounds can we discover and enjoy musically if we begin to look at acoustics very differently? Just to tease you a little bit. So a part of the journey for us is to democratize. And democratization of 3D printing, to me, is not just about price points, but it's even more so about the systematic dismantling of all of the expert user complexity that intimidates the crap out of 99% of the potential users. Right? I mean, today, 3D printing is relegated to the 1% that is CAD savvy, the 1% that took time to fine-tune and sharpen content creation skills in a parametric environment, in a direct modeling environment, and took years to refine it. And so that doesn't scale. How do we democratize access to the masses? And the answer is very simple. The answer is we already possess most of the digital creation content. I mean, if you look around you, as I look, at most of your desks, you either have a notepad. You can begin to create, believe it or not, digitally with pen and paper. I will show you that in a few minutes. I know you don't see it, but it's possible. You can begin to scan with your iPhone or your tablet, not just take pictures. Those could be stitched together in a photogrammetry way. You can certainly create with your tablets and with your computers, so you already have your canvas. And my job as one of the disruptors that wants to democratize all of this is to create the opportunity for you to upload any content that you can create, even when it's in 2D or in 3D, and to allow you to begin to share it, to customize it, to modify it, and to begin to do some things that were not imaginable before. So think first and foremost in terms of your iPhone or your tablet. We have some technology today that allows you to upload a series of pictures or upload a video, and you just send it up to our Cubify.com destination, and what you'll get back is a fully meshed and printable file that you can begin to do with as you please. You could print it, we could print it, you could modify it, you could do anything that you want. Disney is up and running with this app. It's the D-Tech Princess app that allows young girls to sit in a photo booth, and within a few seconds, they snap about a dozen pictures. The girls select the princess of their choice, and then we mash the head of the girl onto the body of the Disney princess, something I always wanted. And it gets printed actually on a zip printer 650, the very same one that you guys have in our lab here at Singularity. And out comes you personalized as a princess. What does that mean? That means that the whole experience with major brands, when you think about my experience with G.I. Joe, with any Mattel or Hasbro or Nickelodeon or Disney branded IP, could be disrupted. We have a platform here that begins to allow all these major brands that amassed incredible equity in their IP to introduce a new element, a new experiential element to their audience, which is I get to co-create with my favorite branded heroes. It becomes personalized. What does that mean? It means that as these brands look forward, they can begin to create on a personal level the kind of emotional equity with their audiences that they couldn't do before. So today, if you create for millions and you go online or you go to the shelf and you get what is, right? If I go to buy a pair of shoes, I can, to the nearest approximation, hope to find something that semi-fits me. But tomorrow, with this kind of technology, anything could be individualized and customized, and this is just the tip of the iceberg. To further democratize and show the possibility, we launched really a 3D printing lifestyle brand. Dan was talking about disrupting and teasing. We call it Fresh Fiber. Fresh Fiber is online. That's the Galaxy 3 cover. Fresh Fiber is online, and Fresh Fiber can do funky things like chainmail, which you could not manufacture in any other way, because it would not come out of a mold. You cannot injection mold, this kind of a chainmail structure. But fresh fiber can also do things that looks perfectly ordinary, like this is my, please give it back to me, that's my seal. So fresh fiber can also do perfectly ordinary things that look just like leather. And we now have in-store customization that allow people to come in and actually put a little plate that personalize their name so they can print that in-store in about 5 minutes on a cube, just like you have, and you can pop it in, and now you have a customized experience. So, you know, when you look at all that stuff, that to us is the beginning of a movement that we believe is at the heart of the human condition, because all of us in some ways have an innate desire to differentiate, right? Look at how you guys are dressed. Look at the kind of cars that you drive and the kind of gadgets that you're attracted to and how you decorate your home or not and who you hang out with and whether you have a beard or not. You know, we're all, or how the ladies accessorize themselves, you know, innate in the, you know, central to the human condition is the desire to differentiate and to be distinctive. And 3D printing allows you to basically manifest that in ways that could not be conceived before. Another interesting possibility is we can turn your voice, because after all, what happens to sound and to voice? Waveforms, right? So we can take any waveform and we could algorithmically translate it into geometries. And so you can begin to encode secret messages. Let's say that you want to say to your kid or to your loved one, I love you, in your own voice, with that unique signature. That could be translated into a beautiful bracelet or a beautiful cover or greeting card, and it would have, that geometry will embed your secret message. I love you, you matter, you're awesome, and so forth. Where else can it go? Well, there are lots of interesting sensing technology. You know, when you look at what is going to be disruptive in the future, Dan talked about artificial intelligence and robotics. Sensing technology is another major force, I believe, in disrupting everything as we know it. Prime Sense and Kinect is only the tip of the iceberg. But when you look at sensing, sensing is going to change how we interact with everything, how we measure, how we validate, how we track, how we communicate, how we document, and with that also how we create. So this is just one example of beginning to create meaningful virtual sculpting just by gesturing in front of a sensing device and creating some very beautiful, in this case, interior decorating elements. Another way for us to democratize access by systematically dismantling the expert user friction and complexity that resides between this awesome technology and the other 99% is through what I call the gamification of content creation. What I have learned in the last few years is that the best way to learn skills and to become really, really good is to do it through games. And so, as a company, we went and we invested in, actually we acquired a gaming studio, and then we began to figure out, how do we begin to gamify content creation. So we have all kinds of interesting apps now on Cubify.com that allows anybody instantly to get online and to begin to create fully meshed, watertight, perfectly printable content very quickly. And sometimes you can do it in color and print it on a color printers, and other times you can do it in monochrome. The bottom line is everybody is creative and everybody can create, and we are taking steps And we're making significant investments to democratize the access so that anybody can begin to create with your camera and with your iPhone and also through fun gamification kind of apps. If you're up for a greater challenge, there are lots of sculpting packages out there. This one happens to be from a company by the name of Pixelogic. They're very famous for their sculpting and animation tools. This one is called ZBrush, very popular amongst animators. And you can see that very, very quickly, one can begin to sculpt digitally in the same way that one would have sculpted manually. And the sky is the limit. You know, the more that this one comes under the heading of what Arnold Palmer said many years ago when he was asked what made him a great golfer. He said, "The more I practice, the luckier I get." So this one, the more you do it, the results are absolutely amazing. So then comes the part of making it real. And you guys, you know, will get to experience the making it real today. And we'll get to that in a few minutes. And making it real means you can do it at home. You can do it in your living room or classroom. You can also do it by ordering it online, and it'll get cloud printed and sent to you. And the next step for me in democratization is how do I begin to invite, whether it's Home Depots and Lowe's, or whether it's Disney and Mattel, how do I begin to invite them to make use of this very powerful hosting, publishing, and production platform so that it could be a game-changing event in the way that they view their business? And the answer to that is make it safe. And what does making it safe means? It means that, you know, we don't want any piracy, which is where a good and safe platform that has comprehensive DRM capabilities is very, very important. And that's another area that we're spending a great deal of resource on to make sure that the people that come and play with us on this platform have the peace of mind that anybody who will customize and co-create with their favorite brands will only get a set of executables and not a file that they could somehow begin to replicate at will. So where is it all headed? What's next in terms of 3D printing? So if I was writing the next Thomas Friedman book, I would have titled it Rapid, Local, and Meshed. And the reason is that I believe that manufacturing is headed towards quick turn, short run, mass customized products that will be co-created with the consumer together, that there is going to be a renaissance in manufacturing because there's going to be a real drive to localize it because that gives flexibility, customization, and an everlasting sustainable profile. And I believe that there is going to be a hybridization in the tools that one will deploy on the manufacturing floor, a hybridization of 3D printing, CNC machining, and injection molding. In other words, the devices of the future will have all these elements meshed together to add to speed, flexibility, utility, and real industrialization of these devices in a way that would provide for the flexibility and cost effectiveness. How does that manifest? It manifests into mass individualization of products. So why is that important? Because you can build all the functionality into the device without any assembly. So this is my iPad. Please give it back to me. And what's interesting about this is this was all printed in one piece but it has all the functionality of hinging without any of the assembly. So this is how it comes out of the printer, with all the moving parts, with all the live hinges, and in a shape that is unique. A shape, by the way, that could not be injection molded. So that's why it matters. It will change jewelry as we know it in big and small ways. And it will certainly alter the way that musical instruments are conceived of. And I have to tell you, we now have a whole line of guitars that we have put online, and the response has been absolutely enormous. Because people now get to customize their guitars. And it's just one example of altering an experience that has been around for decades and delivering it completely in a new and unique way, and in an exciting way, and in a way that will spur lots of musical innovations, we believe, and creativity. Education, that's my personal passion. I mean, I spend a lot of my time with 8-year-olds on the floor, learning with them and from them where kids can take this. Because I think that the most important thing that we can do for our children and for the future of our economy is to give them tomorrow's competitive skills today, and to get them to believe in themselves and in their creativity, and to do it not just for the small percentage of kids that get attracted to STEM skills, but to do it for writers and artists, to do it for liberal arts, which is why this year we partnered with Scholastics, with the Alliance for Young Writers and Artists. It's a 90-year-old program that recognized very renowned artists like Andy Warhol when he was a kid, and Robert Redford and others, because I believe that there is an opportunity here to expose children at a young age to this amazing technology that will allow them to express themselves and their authenticity in ways that they haven't even conceived of. And so I'm doing it as a personal passion. This is very interesting. We began to partner with major brands, in this case Heineken, and they're using 3D printing basically to create a whole new brand experience. So this one comes under the heading of advertising, under the heading of creating a whole new brand experience. This was a major campaign that Heineken did recently around sustainability and recyclability, and the central theme was turn your ideas to sustainable ideas quickly. And we basically locked up a few of our designers for 48 hours, and they got ideas from all over the world, and they turned them into real opportunities in real time, and it was all over YouTube, and it was just amazing. Food. Food can be printed. My personal passion is chocolate. And so I'm bound and determined to bring to the market a real awesome chocolate printer, because that's what I'm passionate about. But, and I hope to do it soon. So I've been very public about it. It's not a secret. You know, you're not getting any insider's information. I'm passionate about chocolate, and I'm bound and determined to commercialize a chocolate printer. And it's not trivial, because chocolate is a non-Newtonian material, which means its flow characteristics are not predictable. So it's a bit of a science challenge, but this too shall be resolved. Pottery. Anything that you can dream of, you can now begin to design. And actually, we have printers that can print in ceramic-like materials, so you can have the full ceramic experience at the end, and it's absolutely amazing. And another area that is very exciting is the whole maker movement. There are increasingly more and more people that discover the magic and are passionate about creating and making for themselves and with their friends and neighbors and within the whole movement. And 3D printing is another degree of freedom for makers to pursue their passion and to discover their purpose in ways that they haven't been able to do before. And so it's an amazing movement, and if you haven't been aware of, and if you're not involved with the maker community, I would ask you to find out where are the hackers and maker spaces in your local area and get exposed, because a lot of disruption is happening in that space. Fashion. We're famous for doing lots of shoes, including shoes for Lady Gaga and for others, but it's taking hold. And why? Because, again, you can do a lot of amazing things with 3D printing that you could not do in any other way. It's sustainable, it's scalable, it's flexible, and it's taking hold. And when you think about how much is spent on shoe wear, particularly by ladies, it's an area that has a great deal of interest and traction. But most importantly, in terms of comfort, you think about this, a few hundred years ago, if you needed a pair of shoes made, you went to your local shoemaker and you got something that was custom made. Today, you have to take your special fit and find a generally purpose-made shoe that maybe fits you. So there is a great deal of interest in this area, and it obviously starts with high-end, creative, fashionable statements, but it's gaining a lot of traction, so very interesting. There are a few universities around the world, USC in Los Angeles and Loughborough University in the United Kingdom, that are actually dreaming about printing homes. And they have now scaled this. They have these massive gantry robotic devices that actually print in concrete. And they created the special sauce, the concrete that dries quickly with the right bonding agents. And the idea is that you could print, particularly in third world countries, complete structures that would require a very different kind of supply chain and would be very sustainable and very economic to do and very flexible in terms of the kind of structures that you can build. And it's not a far-fetched idea. It's happening and it's very feasible. Another area that is gaining a great deal of interest and capability and is being democratized is the whole area of scanning and sensing. I talked a little bit before about photogrammetry and picture taking, but the reality is you can digitize yourself and anything else with something as simple as a Kinect. And between the Microsoft accelerator and all the other smart people around the world that are creating interfaces, it's becoming a very powerful scanning device. There is a neat little startup here called Lip Motion that will allow you to begin to capture all kinds of movements and interfaces very quickly. And the reality is all of our smartphones and any camera device will become a scanner, including the scanners themselves. Professional scanners have been around for a long time. And professional scanners today can basically digitize any organic or mechanical shape. And there is lots of software like our rapid form tools that will allow you to open anything that you scan readily in a direct modeling environment that is fully parametric. So it's just like opening it in CAD and beginning to make modifications. So think of it as the 3D copy machine. It's important not only in terms of the reverse engineering aspect, but also in terms of the inspection capabilities, because you can begin to compare anything that you make, and you can begin to document in 3D, inspect in 3D, validate in 3D, and report in 3D. And that brings me to the piece of paper. You can begin to create today from a piece of paper. So this is one of our creative directors in the Netherlands, the guy that founded Freedom of Creation. And unfortunately, I did not link this video, so I'll start it manually. And what you see here is he's going to start from a piece of paper, and he's going to basically sign his name on a piece of paper. So all of you who have pieces of paper here, you can begin to create digitally. You're in. And what happens is we just have a little camera that's looking at it, and we have some simple extrusion software, and instantly you can begin to turn it into a 3D printed item in the same way that I turned this picture, which if you put against the light, into what's called a bumpy photo. And so you can take any 2D creation and you can turn it into a 3D shape. Here in your lab, there is another incredible virtual reality device called Leonardo 3D. And we actually have one member of the Leonardo 3D team, or maybe a couple here. And so you can talk with them later. But what is amazing about this tool is that you can begin to virtually create fully printable shapes. And if you haven't tried Leonardo in the lab yet, I would encourage you to do it, because that's another very powerful and very disruptive content creation and educational tool that I think is going to change the way that we look at content creation.